Hi, my name is Alan Bernstein. I'm the president of the Felshtin Society, and I'm here today conducting an oral history interview with Gail Dick and Beverly Gersfeld, both of whom have family who came from Felshtin. This is part of our ongoing program to record oral histories that will fill in the family stories that have transpired between the time that people came from Felshtin and the present day. So what you're going to hear are a lot of things that have been passed down from person to person through the years, and we hope will offer an enriching history of each family and add to our collective memory of what it takes to establish a family in a new environment. Thanks very much for your attention. We look forward to hearing from you. Bye-bye. Well, here we go. So I'm now going to turn our attention to Gail Dick, who's going to tell us about her family. Gail, thanks very much for participating with us today. We very much appreciate your willingness to give us your testimony about what happened to your family during the past 100 years, really. So if you could tell us first tell us about which members of your family came from Felshtin, and whatever you know about how they got here, and what struggles, if any, they had in being able to get out of the Ukraine and to the United States. That's where we'd like to start.
Well, my grandfather and my mother and father both came from Felshtin.
And what were their names?
And my grandfather's name was Samuel, I believe. I think it was, his full name was Samuel Stillerman, and his brother Max. I understand. Well, Max came here first because he was here already, and then my grandfather came over. And then he brought his daughters, his two daughters, my mother, who was Anna, and her sister. Her sister's name is Bessie. And the two of them, Bessie was 2 years older than my mother. And my mother was 9 and Bessie was 11 when they came over. And after they got here, I don't really know how much longer it took, but my grandfather had passed away. So Beverly's grandfather, it was Max, became my mother's legal guardian. And by the time my sister was 18 years old, she passed away. She had a brother as well, but he went to the war, and when he was in Europe, he went away and she never saw him again. She doesn't know what happened to him. That's what she told me. She never knew what happened to her brother. I didn't even know his name. She never told me his name. She just said she had a brother and he went away and he never came back. That was it. So I really don't know.
And this is your grandmother's brother?
Yeah, my mother's brother.
Your mother's brother. Your mother had a brother.
She had a brother and a sister.
So the sister got here.
The sister got here.
But the brother.
She died at 18. She was young.
You know.
She developed tuberculosis. In those days, they didn't know how to treat that.
You know what year that was, by any chance, roughly?
Yeah, she came here, I think, in 21. So she was 11. Was 11, so
1928, 29, something.
Yeah, somewhere
like
around there. Yeah, 1928.
Do you have any idea how they travel to the United States?
They came to the United States on a boat, that much I know, but I don't know from where or where she got the boat. I know she had to go through channels to get the boat. She said she had to be stopped off in different homes. And in one home, she said she had to pretend to be their children, otherwise they would have been killed, because they were killing all the Jews. The Cossacks were killing all the Jews at that time.
And do you know where that was, where she was helped by a family? You know, was that in Felshtin, or was that somewhere out of Felshtin?
I'm not really sure. She hasn't really said where that was. I think it started in Felshtin, so I don't really know.
And was that for a long period of time, or a couple of months?
Exactly, I would say a couple of months. I don't even know. I don't know how long it took for her father to even get here, but he got here first. And then he said he would try and bring them over, which he did. Eventually they did get here. And then she was the legal guardian of her uncle, Max. But she knew my father because my father was here. He lived in Felshtin as well. But I don't even know how he got here. I was never told that, so I don't really know. But I know he was here. And she was friends with his sister. He had sisters. And she was friends with one of his sisters. And they got very close. By the time she was 15 and a half, she got married to him. And he was 19. They were married at a very young age.
And that was here?
Right. Her uncle, the one who was her guardian, had to get permission for her to get married. Because she was so young. So, by the age of 19, she had 2 children.
Wow.
Yeah. 2 older brothers.
You have 2 older brothers?
I had 3 older brothers. The oldest died very young. He died at 43 years old. He was young. He had bad heart. My father died at 51 years old. Heart attack, same thing. And then I have a middle brother. He's 85. He's the only one left. And then the one younger than him, the one next to me, he died also at 61 years old.
Also of heart?
Yeah, he had a lot of problems. He had circulation problems. He had different problems. It was hard. He had a bleeding ulcer. He bled to the infection. So it was hard.
Did they have families?
Yes, they have families. My oldest brother lived in Florida. That's where he worked. So he was really out there. So he has a son who lives there. His wife passed away. And the younger brother, as a matter of fact, my sister-in-law moved to Florida also. My younger brother, the one next to me, I'm the youngest. And his wife moved to Florida. They had 3 daughters and a son. Son lives here. One of the daughters still lives here, but one moved to Florida with her mother and her family. She was married and has children. Haven't seen them in years. I know my mother was very much involved in Felshtin. Not so much my father, I don't think. He was too, I don't really know. But my mother was.
What was her involvement?
I don't really know that much about it. I'll tell you the truth, I don't. I think Beverly knows more than I do as far as that goes, because the meetings were in our house, so I never really knew.
But you knew that your mother was involved in one way or another?
Right.
What did your folks do for a living?
Oh, my mother was a housewife at first until we got much older. After my father passed away, that's when she first went back to work. She didn't work before that. She was always at home. My father worked. My father died at a young age. I told him that.
Yes.
He died at 51 years old. He had a major heart attack.
And how about your grandparents?
And
you talked about when your grandparents.
I didn't know any of my grandparents.
I know. Do you have any idea what they did when they got here?
No, I don't. I don't know what my grandmother did. I know he lived with her grandfather, and they were together. I mean, matter of fact, like I said, when he died, her grandfather was my mother's legal guardian. Beverly's grandfather.
Okay.
Yeah.
The people who are watching this have no idea that Beverly is here.
Oh, okay. I don't know, so I really.
Oh, tell me
I
about it.
don't really know what he did.
What did your father do?
My father was in the garment district. He was a cutter by dresses. Yeah, he designed, he cut, made. As a matter of fact, he made me a lot of clothes as a little girl.
And was that forever? That was his.
That was his thing, yes.
And that
When he came here.
when he came, he knew he had that trade when he arrived.
Yeah, I don't really know if he had the trade or he got it here, I think. I'm not sure. But I know that's what I always remember him doing. Always working in the garment district. Cut her by dresses. He even made my sister-in-law a dress. He made everybody clothes.
And he had no involvement in the Felshtin Society or anything like that?
No, I don't remember him being involved with that at all.
Did he ever talk about Felshtin?
No, not to me. No,
Never spoke about it?
no, not to me.
Never told you why he came here?
Only my
or-
mother. She was the only one that was really involved.
So what
That I know.
what would she say? What kind of things would she tell you about?
I don't remember.
Did you talk about how your mother came here? How she came when she was a little girl? And she
Yeah, like her sister.
Right. Did you tell them about that?
Yeah, I did. Told you about that.
And that the father came first.
Well, yeah, right, her father was here first. And then he brought them over. Her brother was still in Europe. He remained. She didn't even know what happened to him. He just went away. And he disappeared.
Okay, at this time we would like to introduce Beverly Gersfeld, who is Gail Dick's first cousin once removed. Second cousin?
I don't know how to figure it out.
Okay,
Yes,
but
something
one of
like
the two,
that. Yeah,
okay?
we're removed, but
Okay.
close.
And Beverly, you had something that you thought might be helpful to understand about Gail's folks?
My understanding is that her grandfather and my grandfather were two of 21 children from the town of Felshtin, and my grandfather being the youngest. And the two of them came to this country, I think it was for opportunity. You know, they never talked about the pogrom, to be honest with you. But my understanding was that they felt there was opportunity in America, and Gail's grandfather was already married and had children, but came ahead to set up the home before he would bring, well, his children, because his wife, if you could add Gail, your mother's mother, your grandmother, what happened to her?
My grandmother died at birth.
Yeah, well, that's what.
Yeah, my grandmother died when she was born, when my mother was born.
Right. So,
It's a record.
he was. He came here and he had these two young girls, Gail's mother and her sister, From what I understood, they traveled by themselves, being hidden. Gail, you want to?
Yeah, I said that. They went from house to house.
To get to this country,
Right,
you know,
so
to
they
get
got
on
on
a
a
ship
boat.
by themselves.
Do you know where they were hidden? Was it in Felshtin or was it around Felshtin? It was on the way?
It was on the way from Felshtin to wherever the port is.
Yeah, I know my mother said they went to France.
Right, I remember I was saying France.
Right, that I remembered, but where else, I don't really
I
know.
didn't even know.
And was it on a farm or in a town or?
In Felshtin?
No, where they were hidden out. You have no
I remember
idea.
saying they hid her underneath the bed.
That was in where? In
the
Felshtin? Yeah, we heard, I think we did hear stories like that.
Yes.
That they were in Felshtin, they were also hiding, maybe when,
And then her neighbors hid her.
Yeah, took her in and said she
Right,
was one of their
right,
children.
right.
I
So
told
she
them
wouldn't-
that.
oh, really, as one of them.
Yeah, as one of her children. Otherwise, because she saw them beheading babies. Told them that.
Oh, okay.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
Yeah.
Huh. And Beverly, how about your family? What kind of things did they do to earn a living, and where did you live? Where did you grow up? I'm
Well,
assuming it was in New York City.
Yeah, I know when my grandfather came here with the other brother, they lived in Manhattan originally.
Right.
And my grandfather did had a variety of jobs. I know he owned a candy store at one time, and he was a barber, I think.
A barber.
Yeah,
A barber at one
Right.
time.
Yes, it was.
Nothing was.
Then he made ties.
Then he made ties, and
Then the fiasco of selling corn in Coney Island, remember?
no, okay, you remember a lot of stuff.
Well, he
I'm
borrowed
sorry,
money
I
from
know
Uncle
this is-
Morris. That's what started the trouble with Uncle Morris.
So my grandfather did a lot of different things, and nothing ever was spectacularly successful. Let's put it that way. But he tried a lot of things, and then my mother was born here, and she was just one child. I remember that she was given because she was an only child, and she used to go to the candy store and hang out there. Well, he owned that, and she always said she was given everything. You know, she had piano lessons, right? She did a lot of, you know, she was kind of like an only child would be, spoiled and given everything. Because my grandfather came from 21 children, and then he had one. And then my understanding is that I guess they did do better. I don't know if my mother started working or what. They moved to the Bronx. And they felt like they had come up in the world, moving to the Bronx.
Whereabouts in the Bronx?
It was called the East Bronx at the time. We lived on a small street called Minford Place, off of Boston Road. And the way it was is we all moved together, like, you know, Gail's family. It was her mother was married, of course, already, and they moved right next door to us. So we always lived near each other, and we were always very close, because if Gail already explained, when her mother came here to live with her father remarried someone, and then he died. And she came to live with my grandfather, who was, I guess, legal guardian, you say, at the time, until she got married, which was a young age, at 15. And so my mother and Gail's mother were like sisters. Because the other sister and his sister, her mother, died from, Gail, you was at what age?
18.
18. Oh, when our grandfathers came, another sister came with them. And what we both remember...
Was that Bessie?
did you say her name is Bessie, Gail?
Yeah,
Okay, then
yeah, because my middle name is named after her.
after the sister, Bessie. Yeah, and my grandfather always said that she died in the Triangle Fire, the sister. I haven't been able to find, I tried to research it a little bit and I don't see her name listed, or I don't know how that came to pass, but that's what my grandfather always told us as a story. So my grandmother didn't work. She came from another place, but she was also an immigrant. My grandfather's from Felshtin.
Meaning your grandmother didn't come from Felshtin?
No.
Where did she come from?
Because they met here. My grandfather was about 17 when he came here, and he met her here. She came, I don't know the name of the town. I always...
Austria, right?
Austria, but I don't know the name of the place. And my father also came from Europe, which was a place called Streliska. And my mother met. My mother was an American born, but she married him. And Streliska was originally in Poland, but now they tell me it's in Ukraine. But our recollection, my recollection, and that's what stands out, is these meetings in my apartment in the Bronx, where my grandfather was the secretary of the organization, which is why I feel I was very close to my grandfather. My mother and father both worked, and my grandparents raised us. In particular, my grandfather was, I was his, shining star, and we were very much alike, they said. So they had these meetings, and there was someone called Usharizis. That's one of the members.
The president's boy.
Was he supposedly a president?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't see his name very much.
That name doesn't ring a bell to me.
Really?
Really?
It doesn't, and that's what's been said, which I don't understand. That's the part. There's some things I don't understand. And now, you remember Usharizis also. And they came, so that's why the feeling for the, they didn't talk much about about Europe. They talked about the organization here in the United States, and the burial, and that's where they'll be buried. But Gail's father was also from Felshtin. I'm related to her mother. Wasserman was his name, and in the Yiska book, I have seen his name, Simon Wasserman.
Oh yeah.
And Max. In the book, Munish is my grandfather. That's the name that he had that he used in Europe. That I saw in the book. Munish.
Right.
Do you recall anything else about what transpired at the meetings?
As a little girl, I don't really know what they talked about. But honestly, what I can remember is they talked about the cemetery.
Okay.
That's what.
Oh, that was an important part.
That was very important, and and we've visited it many times.
And did they speak in Yiddish?
I am not sure. Now, my grandfather was fluent in English, but he liked to talk Yiddish. So I'm not sure if they did, and that's why we knew some Yiddish because they used to speak to us in Yiddish. So
But you don't recall whether the meetings were in Yiddish or English or?
I think it was my best
English.
answer would be both.
Okay, it's probably
That they probably
Mixed it up.
reverted to Yiddish at times and spoke English too. I think my grandfather was pretty young compared to the other people that were there, because he came here pretty young, a teenager basically.
Beverly, how often would these meetings take place?
I'm not sure.
They were on Friday nights though, right?
I don't say so.
Would it be on Friday?
I don't
What?
think so.
Wouldn't be
I
on
don't think
Friday
so.
night.
No, I think they were
No.
more in the afternoons, like Sunday afternoon.
Or during the week in the evening?
Yeah, no, it wasn't Friday night.
It was Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, I think it was Sunday afternoon, because most people did work then, and, because I think from what I remember, my grandfather was already not working when I was of age to remember. My grandfather stayed home, and my grandparents took care of myself and my brother while my parents
In
worked.
other words, they were retired.
Yes, just my grandmother never worked, but she was retired, and I
Okay.
guess he was retired.
You like to play with kids, because we used to go to the bungalows in the
Well,
summertime.
Let me get you on the
I'm
camera.
Stuart Habenstreit, Beverly Gersfeld's sister, and Max Stillerman was my grandfather. And he used to play with us, and we used to spend summers in the bungalows in the Catskills, and he would play games with us and chase us. He was a very active person, until unfortunately he fell and broke his hip. And then he was never the same after that.
How old was he when that happened?
About 76. He wasn't a good patient. He thought back then that he wouldn't recover fully, so he just didn't recover at all.
That Beverly was talking about the Felshtin meetings.
Yeah, they were definitely in our house. And this man that nobody seems to know, Usha Rises, definitely seemed like he was running the meeting. And that's why we thought he was the president or whatever the title would be. But you say nobody seems to know him.
It's not a name that's familiar to me.
We all know him, though. I mean,
Okay, it could be that, there's records of it, but,
But you said there's records of Max Stillerman, right? And
Max Stillerman is a name that I'm very familiar with. That I'm sure that's on the monument in Staten Island.
maybe Usha Rises had a different Hebrew name. Maybe that's what it was.
Could be. It could very well be. Yes. Yeah. Now, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you've done in your life and what your family situation is?
Well, when I was little, my grandparents basically raised me when my mother and father went to work. And when I first started going to school, because I spoke Yiddish to them, I spoke broken English, believe it or not. I would say things like "guppel" and instead of saying fork or spoon, and I don't know if it helped me back in school or not, but I remember distinctly in the second grade, my teachers were having a conversation. They said in German, but yet it was German's a lot of Yiddish, so I actually understood what they were saying to each other because of my upbringing from my grandfather and grandmother.
So you basically only spoke Yiddish in the house?
A lot of Yiddish.
And how old are you?
I was like,
No, how old are you now?
now 63.
63. Okay. So we're talking about
4, 5, 6,
1950s.
yeah.
We're talking
Well, I
about,
was born in 52.
okay, so we're talking
So I
about
was
the
like
50s.
5, 6 years old.
And where was this? Where?
We lived in Minford Place, like my sister said.
Oh, in the Bronx.
And in the Bronx. And then we moved to McCombs Road, 1674 McCombs Road,
Okay.
which was 20 blocks from Yankee Stadium, which made me a big Yankee fan for the rest of my life. And me and my sister shared a room. I think my grandfather had his own room. My grandmother we had a very big apartment. It was like,
All right, so send me the prescription.
it was a corner apartment on the second floor.
Yeah.
And I think they still had meetings in that apartment, maybe, for a little while. Because then I think Usha Rises, he died. And I think that's when the meeting stopped.
Uh-huh. Do you have any recollection of what they spoke about, or?
I was even younger than my sister.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So we were like 4.5 years apart.
And did you go, you went to public school in the
I went to
area?
Hebrew school the first year. First year I went to yeshiva.
Where was the yeshiva?
Yeshiva Torah Muno. It was in the Bronx also. It was like on Soundview Avenue or somewhere around there. And then I think in second grade I went to public school. Maybe.
Which was where?
By then we went to, what was the PS on Boston Road?
Oh, on Boston.
I think I went there one year, didn't I? And then I went to PS 104 on Pugsley Avenue.
Pugsley
So
Avenue.
From second grade to
It
sixth.
wasn't on Post.
Not on Pugsley.
Wasn't
I
on
lived on
Wait.
Post.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
It was around the corner, it was
Shakespeare?
like Shakespeare.
Shakespeare Avenue in the Bronx.
Yeah, I think so.
PS 104. And I don't know if she told you anything about her father, but her father managed a grocery store on University Avenue, which is also in the Bronx. So we lived like 3-4 blocks away. So we'd go to, because, you know, it was gefilte fish and white fish, you know, that kind of stuff. And we used to bring us babkas on Sunday morning, and we used to have lox. My sister was a very fussy eater, but she liked pickled herring was her favorite. As you can see, I liked everything.
So tell us a little bit more about that neighborhood where you grew up. It's very interesting that you had
Well,
your father managed
the first
the
one,
store.
my
Yeah.
father managed the store.
Yeah, well, you said
Yeah,
I thought it was your father that managed the store.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, okay.
He managed it. We used to go there every once in a while. Me and my friend Ricky. He would give us the pickles from the barrel. You know, they still had the big barrels with the pickles in them. You know, and he'd argue with the ladies because they were very fussy about the way they wanted their food sliced and served. But they wanted him to wait on them because I guess he did it the right way or whatever.
And all the clientele was Jewish, right?
All the clientele was Jewish. Mainly women. I guess the women did most of the shopping back then. So it was mainly women doing the shopping.
And then my father got my mother a job.
Right. And when Anna went to work eventually years later, the store was known as Olinsky's. They had about 5 stores in the Bronx.
Right.
They had one in Pelham Parkway.
Right. They had one in Pelham
Right.
Parkway.
On
Right.
Lydic Avenue.
Right.
Yeah.
Lydic Avenue. That's where Anna worked.
That's where my mother worked.
Anna worked
Really?
in Lydic
I
Avenue.
grew up around the corner from
Oh, really?
Sure, I grew up on Holland Avenue.
Holland Avenue.
Yeah.
Our whole
Isn't that
family
where
lived.
My
Our whole
mother-in-law
family
lived
lived.
on
my
Wallace.
father's
Huh?
brother
My
moved?
mother-in-law lived on Wallace.
Sydney.
What was her name?
Where did they
Frida.
He lived a couple
Frida.
blocks.
Rita Dick.
Was it Holland Avenue?
She had an apartment. She
And
lived there for
Who were her children?
Marty.
Martin, my husband,
And Lee.
And what
and
about
Leon.
his?
She had 2
Leon
sons.
Dick.
Yeah.
Leon Dick. The names ring a bell.
And my father's
Leon
brother.
Dick rings a bell.
My
Marty
father's
Dick.
brother lived around.
Sidney Habenstreit?
Sidney Habenstreit.
Who lived where?
Lived near Pelham Park.
What was the block after Olinsky's? Do you know what the block after? You remember?
Lydic Avenue?
Oh,
It was off Lydic
This
Avenue.
was on
This Lydic Avenue is where Olinsky was, right?
Linsky's was between Wallace and Holland.
Right.
I
It
think
was
they
right
lived
on the
on.
corner of
I
Wallace
think they lived
Avenue.
on
I think they lived on Wallace.
Who, Sydney?
Yeah.
I think he lived on
Haven's
Holland.
Okay, you say Holland. I said Wallace.
That's the name of it.
Beverly, where did you get married?
I got married in Pelham Parkway Jewish Center in the Bronx, and it was a shul, a temple, and I always wanted to get married in a temple.
Uh-huh. And when was that?
1968. I got married, and I
Okay.
think it's still there.
It is.
It is still
It
there.
is still there.
I've passed it, and I have very, fond memories. And my grandfather and grandmother moved, as I said, from the Lower East Side. My mother grew up in the Lower East Side. She went to Washington Irving High School. And when they moved to the Bronx, my mother was, during the war, she was an X-ray technician. She got that job because the men were away. That's what she always explained. And then when they came back, she lost that job. They came back and took the jobs back. And when she got married, my father owned a grocery store on Tremont Avenue. Bronx.
Where in Tremont Avenue?
Tremont
Prospect.
and Prospect.
Okay.
And it went out of business. And I have to say, only recently I went on a tour of the Bronx, and the narrator gave me an explanation, because we went around that whole area when they built the Cross Bronx Expressway. They knocked down a lot of the buildings, and that put my father out of business. So he went to work at Alinsky's as a manager of the appetizing, section, and it was, the dynamics of my family were very interesting, because my father and my grandfather argued a lot. And one of the things they argued about was, my grandfather watched wrestling, and my father would say it was fake, and my grandfather would get so mad at my father for saying that it was fake. So, and they argued, and then when my father started doing better, when he worked for Alinsky's, we moved to the West Bronx, it was, the thought process came up that maybe the two families, my grandfather and grandmother, would have a separate apartment. My parents moved in when they got married with my grandparents, because they were starting out, and that was helping them. So my father, who always argued with my grandfather, the story goes that he was the one who said to my mother, now that they're older, we can't make them live by themselves. We have to live together, still live together. And we did, in this very large, I thought it was the most magnificent apartment. We had an elevator in that building. We went to the bungalow colonies. We went with my grandparents. And my parents would come on the weekend, just Saturday and Sunday. My father would only come for Sunday. My mother would go home, and I was just remembering that. My mother would go home, and I'd cry. Every weekend I'd cry, and, well, it was my grandmother that sang, not my grandfather, I guess, so she would sing a song to me, a Jewish song, a Yiddish song. Oy vey yosh gefierte weg. Do you remember that? No. Oy vey yosh gefierte weg. Somehow that soothed me.
So where in the Catskills?
We were in several places, Monticello, Canianga Lake.
Where in Canianga Lake?
Canianga was, wasn't that the,
That was a ranch?
Rand's bungalow colony?
Okay.
In Monticello, it was, oh, I need my husband here, because he remembered, what was the name of that place in Monticello? Your mother went there too.
Yeah, right.
But you were married, you didn't come. Judy and Danny were there, your brother is there. Oh, Vance on Joyland Road in Monticello.
Joyland Road, that.
And the funniest thing is, that's what I'm saying, my husband, we found out we didn't know each other then, but we were probably at the same games. He was playing ball, the different bungalow colonies played each other, and I was the cheerleader, and he was playing. I mean, we did meet when we were 16, my husband and I, but that was when we were younger, we didn't know each other. So, and he has a very good memory.
So tell us a little bit.
I didn't think
tell us a little bit about yourself. Where did you go to school? Where did?
Okay, I started school I went to PS 61 in the Bronx, near Boston Road. Then I went to Herman Ritter Junior High School on Boston Road, which was a beautiful school with a dome. And when I was 12, we moved to McCombs Road in the West Bronx, and I chose to continue taking 3 buses to go to Herman Ritter. And because I had a lot of friends there, and I'm still friends with these people. And then high school, I went to Taft High School. My brother went to Clinton, which was an all-boys school, and my cousin Gail went to Walton, which was an all-girls school. And I graduated Taft, and I went to Hunter College in the Bronx, which is now Lehman College.
And then when did you go there?
when did I go there? I graduated in 1968. 64 to 68, I was at Hunter in the Bronx, and I became a teacher in the Bronx. I taught first grade at PS 75 on Felshtin in the Bronx, and since they put up a sign that they changed it to Success Street, and still a problematic school though. Then I taught in Queens. I taught second and third grade, fourth grade there. And I went back for my master's in school psychology, and I became a school psychologist. And I was a school psychologist for 15 years in Queens. I was in a middle school there. And then I worked in Comac, Long Island for another 12 years as a school psychologist. And that's my careers and my schooling. So,
And you're retired now?
and I am fully retired. I retired from the city 13 years ago, and I did this work for Comac for 12 years, and this is the first year that I'm home, not practicing much, and trying to enjoy life.
And where do you live now?
Now I live in Syosset, Long Island. Our story is when my father passed away. We lived in the West Bronx on the Coombs Road, and at that point my mother had to move. We moved to Castle Hill, a project. My grandfather had already passed away also. My grandmother was still alive. We moved there, my brother, myself, my mother, and my grandmother. My mother was then working for Citibank, and she worked for them for 25 years. So after Castle Hill, I got married and moved to Forest Hills to an apartment and lived there for 6 years. I had one daughter, moved to Syosset, and now I have 2 grandchildren. They live in Jericho, right near me. And my mother moved, well, Anna, my cousin Gail's mother, who came from Felshtin. Again, when we moved to the West Bronx, Anna followed us and lived near us. And Gail, married, also moved near us. We always lived near each other. Then, when my mother moved to Castle Hill after my grandmother passed, Anna moved in with my mother. Again, from like when they were young, they lived together. They were both widows. So they lived together, and then they both moved to Co-op City together with my brother, who lived with them. And so that's, one thing that I wanted to bring out a lot, how the family was always, very close. It was very important that we stayed close.
What do you think that was?
I think that there was this common background, that bound us together. And as I said, they were like sisters. And Anna, Gail's mother, my mother's name was Rose, my mother being an only child, and Anna wasn't, but had lost her siblings. The losses, they brought them together. They were, and when Gail and I were young, we were like inseparable, and, we were always together. And it was just how it happened, and we enjoyed it all.
Did your family talk at all? Was there ever any discussion about the pogrom, about the events in Felshtin, about things that happened in the old country and why they came?
Not very little. They talked about it very little. I think we know about Anna, Gail's mother, because she, I guess, told the story of how she came here.
Right.
And what happened, and she was hidden. And it's interesting that I guess I concocted some stories of my own, and then Gail corrected me. I thought her grandmother and his mother had been killed in the pogrom, because I guess I knew about it, and it kind of logically led to it, but she died in childbirth, and so I guess I knew that had gone on there, and but they didn't talk a lot about it. It seemed like they wanted to forget what happened, yet they didn't want to forget their ties to, but each generation a little bit less of that.
So you both talked about you've all talked about the society meetings and things like that. You've said that was important. What did they communicate about those meetings that you felt made them important? I mean, they weren't. I mean, they were talking about the cemetery. It's
cemetery, that was important.
Why was discussion of the cemetery important?
It's always important, it seems, with Jewish people. I don't know if other religions feel that way. But when I turned 18, my mother made me join the Odd Fellows, which Gail's husband was a member for like ever. And he was and until today. And the main reason to join is that you have somewhere where you can be buried with your family. And now I'm switching, what do you call it? What's it called? I'm switching lodges to be with my sister and my brother-in-law, because they belong to the Odd Fellows, but a different lodge. And mainly it's about where you're buried, so you can stay with your family.
Well, but Felshtin has a burial plot in Staten Island.
Yeah, I know. We used to go to visit my grandparents and her parents.
My parents.
But I don't belong to Felshtin. Felshtin doesn't have an organization.
Sure we do.
You still have an organization?
Absolutely.
No, I mean for burial areas.
Yes, absolutely.
Really?
Yeah, no question about it. Absolutely.
We absolutely did not know
Yes,
that.
there's room in the cemetery,
I didn't think there was any room.
and people may be buried there. We just not too long ago we had somebody buried there. Yeah, within the past year. Yeah.
A descendant of somebody.
Yes, absolutely.
No, we didn't know anything about that, so we've been belonging to these other places.
Okay.
I don't know why they didn't tell us. My
So
mother didn't know.
We're in the Odd Fellows now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, what can I tell you?
But that,
it's very reasonable.
it's very reasonable.
Reasonable.
Wow.
Because we own the plot. So there's just a charge for the burial and.
It just seems like there's no room. Everybody, it's so
Oh, there's room.
condemned. Everybody's so on top of
You know what? We're talking about this very good. I'm going to put out a memo. I'm going to let everybody know this is what's available. It's still, if you would like to be, you or a family person would like to be interred here, this is a possibility.
Right.
I'm thinking about being buried here.
You are.
Yeah, what the hell? But you were going to say something. You were. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. You were talking about the discussion at the meetings about about the burial plots but what would they be talking about? They would be divvying up with who goes where, or what was the?
I guess you could pick your plot, you could pick your plot.
Dues.
And that's what
dues.
they
would
and
have
dues.
to collect dues.
Of course, the dues for the year.
Dues. Okay.
Did you show a picture you had?
Of what?
Yeah, of somebody. That we think I want to see.
I'll show you.
That would be great. Oh, is that picture you showed?
Yeah, that I showed you.
Sure, yeah. Let's.
Oh,
I want to take a picture of that. Tell me a little bit about your Jewish education.
Okay, my grandfather, I wanted to go to Hebrew school. I wanted, And my grandfather did not want me to go to this one workman's a workman's circle. It was from the workman's circle, and I wanted to go there. It's where my friend Jackie was going. And my grandfather said, you can't go there, they're communists. And he didn't like communists at all, and I assume that's because of where he came from. The communists had taken over. And I did go to Hebrew school for 5 years. It was called the KI in the Bronx, near Crotona Park and near Boston Road. And I can still read Hebrew, and I could not be bat mitzvahed. It was an Orthodox temple, so I became bat mitzvahed as an adult in my temple now. It's conservative. And my brother, was bar mitzvahed. You want to talk about your Jewish education?
I got kicked out of Hebrew school.
Well, yes, he didn't make it in Hebrew school, so he had a private rabbi, though, because it's very important to be bar mitzvah. He had a private rabbi teaching him Hebrew, and he was bar mitzvahed. It's a very good job. We are proud of
And I can
our...
still read a little Hebrew. Not as much as my sister.
You what? You can read Hebrew?
A little bit.
Oh, that's very good.
But how important was Jewish education? How important was religion?
Tradition was very important. My grandfather, we would go to shul on holidays. They didn't go regularly to shul, but it was a part of our life. I have the candlesticks that my grandmother had from Friday night, passed down, and it was very important to know we were Jewish, and the traditions like the seders and that type of thing. But my grandfather would say there was a man in our building who was very religious, Mr. Schmolowitz. And what he would say is he didn't like him. And he would say, okay, so he's religious, but is he a good person? That's what's important, is to be a good person and not follow every little rule. So that was how they had a kosher house. We grew up in a kosher house. That was very important to keep kosher. My grandparents never ate anything that wasn't kosher, nor Gail's mother. My mother deviated a little bit outside the house. You'd go for Chinese food. Yeah. And that was okay, to go outside for the Chinese food, but
It was only a pepper steak.
I ate pork. But I still can't eat certain things. I started my own home. I started my own home, kosher. 2 sets of dishes. It was just so much a part of me that I wanted to do that, But I think towards the end, my mother started bringing in food when we were younger also, and put it on paper plates, non-kosher food, so I started doing that. But my husband had a hard time keeping it. We kind of went by the wayside. I still have 2 sets of silverware, though, that I use, And, but there are certain things, even though I don't keep kosher at all, I eat a lot of different non-kosher foods. Certain foods I cannot eat, like ham. I hear the word ham and I get a visceral reaction. And pork chops and sausage, and I can't eat any of those things. I feel like my mother put a chip in my head or something. Yeah. And Gail, do you feel the same way?
Yeah.
You can't eat those kind of things.
No, I don't.
But do you eat other non-kosher? Do you eat shrimp?
No, I don't eat, well, I did at one time, but I don't eat anymore.
No.
Good for the arthritis.
No, I'm just saying
I don't
for
eat
kosher reason. Yeah, my brother's the same way with,
I don't eat pork. Never ate pork chop, never.
no, never ate a pork chop. And, yeah, don't. It's okay. It's okay, I know. Religion.
So, you mentioned that your father had a very strong reaction against people who he thought were communists.
My grandfather.
Yeah.
My grandfather.
Like your grandfather. Any idea what that was about? Did he ever elaborate on why he had such a strong reaction to people who were...
He didn't really say why. He would just did have a strong reaction. He didn't like them. You know, I guess when I got older and knew history, I felt it had to do with Russia. You know that even though when he was there, it was the Tsar who committed the pogroms and was in charge. I think that he felt when they took over, they didn't like the Jews either. It all had to do with being Jewish, I think. And he felt in this country, he was worried maybe that, the communists would take over. It was a strong reaction. That's I do remember.
Well, there was a very strong connection with the Bolsheviks who came in and did the pogroms between the Jewish people and the communists. In their minds, they felt that the Jewish people were perpetrators of communism, and that was one of the reasons, the purported reasons that they used to come in and slaughter people, was because they were communist sympathizers or supporters. And that was
Well,
that was a big thing.
there was that's it. What I think, now that you're refreshing my thought process, what I feel we were always taught, and from my mother has brought it down from her parents, is don't make waves, in whatever you do. Like, because you're Jewish, don't make waves, don't make yourself like... There was always a sense of fear that, like, don't even strive for, like, where you're going to be, like, publicized in a way that is going to make you, and maybe that was the fear, that the people in the United States wouldn't like us because we were communists, the way, the Bolsheviks, what happened in Russia, because maybe the Jews were considered communists, so he didn't want us to be communists. It was complicated. But there was always also this strong sense of superstition that I carry with me all the time. Don't do this, don't do that, that's going to bring bad luck, everything's bad luck. This family has no luck. There would always be this sense of, like, foreboding, negativity. And I think it came from the background of, like, always worry that something bad's going to happen. And I carry it with me to this day. that I, fight against that, but it was ingrained in me. Gail, did you feel there was like a lot of negative,
Yeah. True.
And getting back to about the religion piece, were there a lot of family celebrations? Did you celebrate Passover, Kippur?
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah,
yeah. well,
always.
Yeah.
With-
Oh, I will also tell you, Halloween was like forbidden. And my grandfather, he was a very strong person that had influence. He did not want me to go trick or treating.
Really?
Oh yeah, it's a saint's holiday. He said that's a Christian holiday. You're not allowed to go. Oh, and Christmas.
That's why you hate Christmas.
Oh yeah, he hated Christmas. He would call him Kratzman Tuchis, Yiddish, and kiss my ass. It sounded like Christmas. But we celebrated, yes, all the Jewish holidays were a big part of our life. The Seder's, we all were together, and Jew Rosh Hashanah, and Yom Kippur, and I remember wanting to fast. I couldn't wait till I could fast. I didn't need to eat anyway. Then,
Rite
so,
of passage, right?
yeah.
So, with the holidays, just your immediate families, or was it more with their extended family?
We were
that
Gail
went
and
on?
Marty, Miguel and Anna.
It was
and-
with their family. Yep. You're not in Stewie.
We'd be with the, Gail and Anna and Simon, and then for the holidays. Even for years later, Gail and Marty and Darren and Stephen, they would be over for the
Just
holidays.
a small.
Because even when we moved to Co-op City, they lived 1 block away from where we lived, in Co-op City. We lived in 4160, they lived in 4120. Yeah, we always lived near each other for the first 30 years of my life.
But would there be a larger extended family, or would it be
No,
just
no
pretty much the
outsiders.
two?
Just the two.
Nobody brought friends or anything like that.
No, not family. There was no other family.
No, we had a very small family. So
That was our
right.
family.
that was us.
There was no other extended family. It didn't go,
The only other one, and I don't think he came to holidays or anything, there was a cousin, Louis Stillman. Louis Stillman was the son of one of my grandfather's siblings from Europe. And Louis and Fanny were the only other relatives from my grandfather's side. And we stuck with my grandfather's side of the family. My grandmother's family was, distant, mostly, except for one brother. But it was,
Your father, your
yeah.
mother,
huh?
your father's family.
My father's family, was very religious, very, very religious. My father was the rebel. This is not from Felshtin. And we had contact with them, but we basically, I think we did have some Seder's. They were very, very long. My grandfather, they were pretty long.
You're supposed to be like a rabbi or something.
Yeah, my other grandfather, from my father's side, studied the Torah. He didn't work.
You didn't work for them.
He didn't work. They lived on charity, and with the children working, they lived in the lower. They carried him through the streets when he died. That's the other side of the family. But mostly we stayed with the small family that came from Felshtin, and we stayed together. And this Louis and Fanny were the only other ones. They have a son, Boris Stillerman, who is still, as of a year or two ago, he was alive. I called him, actually, to talk to him. He never answered the phone. I left messages, and his wife said, finally, she spoke to me, and she said he's not interested in doing anything having to do with Felshtin or the background.
Did he say why? Did she say
No.
why?
She did not say why. So I don't know if it, you know. And I've also, you know, certain people just, I don't know. I mean, as far as, you know, Gail's other siblings, she has one sibling that's still alive. And their son I'm pretty friendly with, and I've talked to him about if he would be another generation younger, if he's interested, and doesn't seem to have much interest either in this. So, you know.
That doesn't seem to have much interest means he's not interested at all, or he's ambivalent about it, or he's doesn't understand what it's all about, or
Oh, I think he understands, and we have gotten closer because I think, again, the family has, it's gotten smaller even than it was, and people live different places, and whatever reasons, there's been a lot of losses in our family. I feel like he wants some kind of connection to family, but to go back, I think he's ambivalent about that, you know, going back to so many generations back to become involved in any way. That's my cousin